And welcome everybody to another edition of the Chuck Banks Experience. The views and opinions on this podcast are simply my own. I'm a teacher and a coach in Southeast Iowa. But everyone has to understand that the podcast itself is a separate entity. It's my own basically creation, coaching culture and athletics, which was created about 7 years ago, and that's kind of bloomed to Dog Pound Radio and the Chuck Banks Experience all in one. So anyway, I want to make sure that I throw that out there here at the beginning. Exciting news. We do have a summer sponsor for Dog Pound Radio when we look at softball. I'll be unveiling or unmasking that in the days ahead. So we're excited. I believe we have about 18 games, both the majority of them softball, but also some baseball involved as well. So I want to throw that out there. That's exciting. Tonight, welcome back to Breaking Burnout. It's been a few weeks, as we near the end of the school year. I'm hoping that I'm able to get the podcast out in a little bit more availability. But I'm working on that. Anyway, welcome back to Breaking Burnout. Today we're tackling one of the most misunderstood forms of self care: boundaries. Okay, oftentimes, especially in today's day and age, when you look at, what is it, that Life 360 thing? I was even said that I was a bad driver when I'm hauling tennis girls. Well, not really, but anyway. So we have Life 360. You have Snapchat, where people know exactly where you're at and all that sort of stuff. But s- a huge a huge emphasis on self care if you want to defeat burning out is boundaries. If you're constantly saying yes, answering emails at midnight, or feeling guilty when you log off on time, this episode is definitely for you. If you're a yes person, or you tend to overthink and you do that sort of stuff, or if you're just a freaking workaholic at home, listen, because boundaries are going to be pretty important as we set the stage for tonight's show. So, why boundaries matter? Boundaries protect your energy, time, and emotional bandwidth. Think about it. Each and every day we get up and we all have a specific amount of what do you call it, wherewithal to get things done. And if we use all that up by always saying yes, or doing this, that, or the other, it can cause issues. And we'll look at signs our boundaries are weak here in just a little bit. But we're going to start out by why boundaries matter. So anyway, the first one is boundaries protect your energy, time, and emotional bandwidth. Poor boundaries are a major root cause of burnout, especially in caregiving roles, at home, your friends, taking care of their dogs, watching their house, doing all that sort of stuff. Corporate jobs, if you're out there in corporate jobs, boundaries, it's pretty crazy when you look at burnout and entrepreneurial spaces. I got to throw in educators there a little bit, because we do also need to have those boundaries, and we need to set them up, um, because otherwise you're simply catering to everybody else and not taking care of your own soul. Yeah, I think I said that right. Healthy boundaries actually improve your performance, not weaken it. So you have to take care and set up these boundaries and these guidelines on how people are going to socially interact with you, or at work, at home, um, whatever. Yeah, you have to set those boundaries. I remember earlier on in the year, I took my school email off my phone, and that particular boundary tended to work. But I noticed that, during school hours, believe it or not, we still utilize those to communicate back and forth, to have instant communication between, whether it's administration to teachers and that sort of stuff. You can hear the hounds upstairs. They're barking, they're howling. It is Dog Pound Radio night, right? Nah, I'm just messing. So, healthy boundaries actually improve your performance, not weaken it. Now, signs your boundaries are weak. This is important. Write it down, take note, and take a look. Number one, you feel resentment after agreeing to do something. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe I said yes to do this again. Okay. Resentment, man. If you have any resentment or ill rapport to something that you agreed to do, then your boundaries are not particularly set up well. You say yes when you really mean no. How many times have you done that where somebody comes and said, "Hey, can you watch my class? I got to take a break or whatever," and you say yes, but you really meant no. I'm not saying that I've done that, but I've had other situations like, for example, "Hey, man, I know you're super busy. I know that you're coaching, you're a father, you're teaching, you've had a little bit of run-in with stress, but, could you take care of, this particular aspect?" And you say yes, right? That's where that boundary is really there. Number 3, you check work notifications during off hours out of guilt or pressure. Dude, I do that all the time. There's a lot, and as a matter of fact, there's a lot of my colleagues that that do an exorbitant amount of work when they're not at school, and you get the emails and that, and I tend to message right away. I've had I have set the boundary though that any emails on the weekends or after 9 p.m. I don't answer if it's a student, but I mean colleagues. But you still should look at whether or not you have boundaries set. Okay. You feel exhausted after social or work interactions. Man, teachers feel exhausted almost on a daily basis right now. Boy, my dogs upstairs are really howling at the moon. So think about that. You feel exhausted after social and work interactions. I've done that, man. Where you had to dial in and you had to do this and that. But again, in order to stay healthy, in order to avoid burnout, you have to understand that you have to set those boundaries up so you don't have to deal with the burnout later. And number 5, you avoid difficult conversations to keep the peace. How many times have you done that? I'm sure everyone's raising their hands or at least faking raising their hands. You avoid those difficult conversations. You have to hit those head on. I mean that's a particular boundary that I've been able to overcome in the last 3 to 4 years. Anytime that I need to have those direct difficult conversations, I have them. And really, as a society, we become weak on the aspect that direct communication is bullying, or direct communication means, oh my God, he's being a butthole to me. No, direct communication, leads to being able to have those difficult conversations, to have difficult conversations, and not overlook that. So I think that's important. So, there is, so those are the boundaries, that signs your boundaries are weak. How to set up and keep boundaries. Here's the main rapport for tonight. Okay. Number one, define your non-negotiables. We don't have them. Here's some examples. No emails after 7 p.m. Lunch breaks are screen free. One weekend day is fully unplugged. Okay. Staying away from technology and actually doing it. Maybe your non-negotiable is during, a certain amount of time during my day, like I've started in the morning, instead of going right after that phone, I go to the Beagles, okay, Leo and Loki, and I'm here to tell you that it's done an amazing work on my ability to unplug a little bit, so you got to make sure you do that. Number two, practice saying no without over explaining. You don't have to explain why you're going to say no in order to set a boundary so you don't burn out. It's not selfish. I think that's one of the most important things there is it's not selfish to say no. For example, you could say, "Thanks for thinking of me, but I'm not available for that right now." And that's important. That's important to set that key boundary. Number three, set tech boundaries. I mean, we live in a technological society that basically bleeds us dry. It sucks all the fun out of life, in my opinion. So turn off push notifications. Create work home device separation if possible. I've tried that, but then again, I have to be able to communicate, whether it's my athletes, parents, or whatever. But I have to be able to set that tech boundary in order for me to proactively work on me. And remember, it's not selfish to do so. Number four, communicate proactively. Let colleagues or clients know your availability in advance. Don't wait until you're resentful. You know, it's kind of like putting up hours, man. You have so many hours in the day to work. You have so many hours in the day to sleep, and you have so many hours in the day to spend with your family. Are you getting me here? Because in today's society, ladies and gentlemen, we don't do that. We don't. Communication has destroyed more friggin' relationships than I care to even talk about. And, one of the things that I'll talk about, about my oldest daughter sometime, I don't feel that communication was ever proactive in many regards as far as our relationship. So, anyway, don't wait until you're resentful. That's extremely important to set that barrier up to let everybody know when you're available, when you're not. Five, anchor to a bigger yes. You're not just saying no, you're saying yes to rest, family, mental clarity, and longevity, for God's sakes. You have to do that. We just have to. Okay. So I've got a couple takeaways on this particular component. I may do another segment after this one, but anyway, here's the takeaway, ladies and gentlemen. Boundary phrase to try this week. I'm stepping away now. I'll be back to this during work hours. Here's a challenge though. Okay. Don't just say you're going to do something. Write it down. Write down one boundary you'll set this week and one fear that comes with it. Then do it anyway. Set that freaking boundary and do it anyway. So understand this. Here's an affirmation that we all need to live by. This not only this week, but our entire lives, man. Protecting my peace is part of my purpose. Protecting my peace is part of my purpose. Important. Okay. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors to a healthier life. The more you respect your limits, the more others will too. Thanks for tuning in to Breaking Burnout. Share this with someone who needs permission to log off and subscribe for next week's deep dive into the myth of multitasking. Be well this evening. Tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Dog Mentality, the story of mediocrity becoming elite. It is a book that will change your friggin' life. Order it, pick it up. I'll even sign that sucker. We're out. I hope everyone has an amazing rest of your week.